In 1984, hundreds of women and children have stayed at Bethany House. But surprisingly, hundreds of others still don't know the shelter even exists or what it does to help people. Well, we hope to turn that around today as we celebrate the 10th anniversary of a very special place. Joining us today is the founder and development director, Sister Rose Therese, and the chairman of the board, Richard G. Good to have you here.
Thank you.
Now, obviously, this is a shelter to help, to help women. And I guess I want to just jump right into one of the things that concerns me is how people wonder how a woman can stay in a situation of domestic violence or even be a victim.
You know, that's a question many times people ask, but when you hear the stories of these women, many times they had no role models. That's one of the chief causes, I think, for women getting into these positions. And then to economics. They have no place to go, they have no money, and sometimes they feel, well, a beating once in a while is, at least I have a roof over my head, but I have someplace for my children. And that's many times the reason, fear. And then on top of it, they still love the man in many instances, and they always have the hopes he is going to change. And it's hard to have them understand that no one can change anyone. Each person has to change themselves.
Yeah, I think that is one of the biggest questions people say is, oh, why didn't she just leave? Why did she stay there and let him treat her like that?
It's easy to say that. You know, I never witnessed any domestic violence, and I asked that question too. And when I lived with the women for 6.5 years, and I heard the stories, and at first I thought, they are exaggerating. You know, they were, guns were put to their heads, and they were almost drowned, and the children were, you know, frightened to death because the dad had a gun and he was, you know, wielding it around. But after hearing them and meeting a couple of men by accident, and, you know, hearing the stories of the women, I really believe, and I can understand why they don't leave, the fear, and as I say, economic reasons. And if you grow up in a home where you have no role models, you know, where do you turn to? And sometimes the parents don't understand, you have nowhere to turn to. So, you know, they're left alone, and they're desperate, and many of them don't even know that there's a place to turn to, like the YWCA has a shelter, and it's a crisis shelter. We have a long-term shelter, where women can stay from 3 months to 1 year, and that gives them a chance to become emotionally, you know, well, and then the children can learn, we hope, learn to live without violence.
Right.
Because we have had children come to us where they have been so frightened they even slept under their beds.
Oh, my goodness.
And that is sad.
There's rigorous counseling for both the children and the women who stay at the shelter. And it's been very helpful to them.
That's one of the things we ask, that every woman, when she comes to us, must see a counselor once a week, and then we have group counseling once a week for the women and children. Because without counseling, there would be no use for having a shelter such as that, because there is a definite need for them to look back, find out where they're going, and then forge ahead. But I'm so proud because we have more than 50% of the women that have been with us are doing very, very well. Some, you know, have moved out of the city. Some hesitate to say that they were at Bethany, and I can understand that. But many of them keep in touch with us. We know where they are, what they're doing. They're either working or attending college. See, there's one thing, too, we insist that they...
college, huh?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, see, Displaced Homemakers, I don't know if many people know about it in Toledo. It's a very good program on Jefferson Street, and we encourage our women to attend this for 4 weeks. And they are tested, and they find out their, aptitude tests, and then they go on to college, or they'll find a position.
So a few years ago, we had a virtuoso violinist who went to the University of Toledo, who was just absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
And we have one right now that's working. She's working for a master's. She has her master's. I think she's working for a doctorate, and is teaching at Bowling Green. So, you know, these are good things that happen. We have some nurses.
But it shows that this is something that that affects everybody. I
Definitely.
mean, not everyone, but it could affect anyone.
Yes, it upsets me when people think that we get women from the ghettos. No, we get them from all walks of life. I've had one who is from Ottawa Hills, and, you know, doctors' wives, clergy. In fact, I like to speak to the clergy, because many times the clergy think, well, the woman should go back, you know, stick with the family, and, you know, just for the sake of the children. No way. You know, the woman has been beaten. I tell them that too. You haven't been beaten. You don't understand. But they come from all walks of life. And some women who have a way of helping themselves, or if the family does, you know, help them out in some way, they have a place to turn to.
Right.
But many of them don't. So we're happy that we have a place. We want it to be known that if they call the Y will, you know, take them in, and then they'll encourage them to
So
comply.
this is the 10th anniversary that Bethany has been helping.
Right. We're celebrating the 10th anniversary, honoring Sister Rose Therese at the Toledo Edison Plaza, May the 19th, with a reception for several of the benefactors, and we have some 800 people who are called Friends of Bethany who contribute to us constantly throughout the year.
Yeah,
and the response has been very good.
With something like this, volunteers have got to be the backbone of it. There's no way one person can do it, no matter how big your heart is, that
No, and we have, and we're very happy. And anyone who's interested in volunteering, and Richard was going to say that, if they call 882-2016, they'll call, they'll give us the number, we'll call them. We don't give out our number for the safety of the women. We have to be very, very careful.
Right.
We don't allow the women or children to answer the doorbell or phone. You know, they can get calls, and we'll take them and we'll, you know, screen them, but they're not allowed to give
The
out the numbers.
abusers usually do not know where the women are living either. The house is kept confidential.
Now, does it take a while for the women to really feel comfortable with that they know they can trust that they are safe? How long does it take for that to really set in?
A while, because remember, it's hard living in a community. And they're living with women they don't know, they're living with, you know, other children, and so the children have to learn to get along, and the women have to learn to get along. I admire them because it is very difficult. But I would say we usually give them from 3 to 4 weeks to sort of fall into the schedule and get to know everybody and to get to know the surroundings. And after a month, I would say that they're ready to fall in and feel at home.
But, you know, I guess the thing that is such a shocker, statistically speaking, that domestic violence is the #1 cause of death.
That's true.
Among
Every
women.
16 minutes, there's a woman that's being beaten. And it's sad because so many are, as I think you mentioned before, so many are killed, and we don't realize it because, you know, after the fact we find out, and, you know, I think every day you can pick up the paper and find one small article about some woman who has been abused or hurt, stabbed, killed in some way or other. And this is one thing that, you know, we are concerned about, and I think, you know, we'd like to have the women know that there is a place of safety, or someone who just want to talk. Maybe they don't need a place, but they need to know that others are going through this too. Sometimes there was a stigma attached to this too, I think, for a long time. And I think people are finally realizing that they're not the only ones.
What hope is there for the men, rehabilitation for them?
Well, we take, most of the women we take out and get settled in apartments. We do that for them, help them with getting their apartment started if they choose not to go back to their family or to their abuser, and many times they do. They can leave the shelter whenever they want to after the 90-day period of time. So it's pretty much left up to them.
Well, it's sad to say that I would say the abuser has, you know, there's very little hope. Because if they would go for counseling, at least a year, I would say maybe. But they'll go for counseling once or twice and they'll say, no way, it doesn't do any good. You know, many times women have told me this, that they thought the men would change. And they go for counseling, they'll come back, and then the woman falls for it and says, all right, you tried. Well, that's not enough. See, they need counseling, and if they aren't willing to change themselves, there's no hope for them. I feel, you know, that really, I would say maybe 1 in 1,000, I feel would change. In fact, I attended a workshop
1
once
in
for
1,000.
That's what I would say. Might.
My.
Because I was at a workshop a few years back, and they have a very good program in Duluth for abusers. And I asked, you know, because they told us statistics weren't too good, you know, as far as the men changing. And I questioned, well, why are you in this? And they said, because at least we're saving some men from killing a woman or some women from being killed. You see, the men, you know, I blame society in a way. The man has been taught to be, you know, macho, and he has to be the hero, and so he thinks he has the right to possess the woman.
Right.
The sad part in many cases, too, is the children, because I notice myself, when I go into the shelter, the kids are pulling on me and tugging on me, you know, for just to see a male image and missing the father role that they don't have.
And you mentioned, Janice, about the volunteers. We do appreciate volunteers. They can answer the phones, they can, you know, help with the children, they can put, you know, pass out donations, and little odd jobs that they can do. And many times, having the, you know, volunteers there, the women talk to them, and this is therapeutic for the woman to tell others about her story.
Right, because I guess that's one of the things that keeps them in the emotional prison is the isolation, not telling anybody else, and the shame that goes
And they'll
with
tell
that.
you, too. In fact, sometimes when I go out and speak to other organizations, I'll take a woman along, and they are frightened at first, and then say, you know, that was very therapeutic. I feel better because I told my story. And then they realize that people don't condemn them, that they accept them, and so they feel better about themselves.
Now, this is a rare shelter. This is not something that you find in every city.
Right, there are only a few that we know of, 3 or 4 in the United States. And thanks to Sister Rose Therese, who started this out, it was originally in response to a study done by the Junior League of Toledo and the Northwest Ohio Planning Council. And Sister Rose Therese took it from there and developed the house and the shelter, and as we've moved the shelter once in 10 years to a better location and a larger location. And through the Sisters of St. Francis and Franciscan Services, we've been very fortunate to have their services for us also.
Okay, and now the number, if someone wants to volunteer.
We encourage them to call 882-2016 and ask for Sister Rose Therese or Sister Faith
Okay.
will return their call.
And as far as the
immediately.
celebration, the 10th anniversary, as you said, May 19th?
Right, May 19th. If anybody is interested in attending, we again are looking for people to come and join us in this occasion, and they can call that same number and make a reservation or get information.
Okay, fantastic. And we do have time real quickly for you to say that green ribbon, just for anybody that's curious and says, what's that?
It's for organ and tissue donor awareness. I am the recipient of a liver transplant 5 years ago.
Incredible.
And this
Happy
is a
to
new
be
thing
able to
that's
talk
out.
about it.
Right. Happy, very happy.
All right. Well, at least we've been able to give people a little bit of hope. And I would hope and I would urge people that if you hear something with your neighbors or a friend or something, instead of just, oh, there they are again, or they're always fighting or something, maybe go lend an ear and let that person know that there's a way out, and one of the ways out is
And get
Bethany
more
House.
information if they want it.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, up next, what do you do when you mix a beautiful waterfront with lively music and more than 500 people? We'll have the details coming up. Stay tuned.